That wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. That performance was just lacked that intensity.
Roy Keane back on the field over the course of the week in a Legends game.
Booed as well at Anfield, unsurprisingly.
Colm says he played well. The reports I read was he had no influence in the game.
Can you imagine? Colm says Roy Keane played well. What are the chances?
There you go. So
it is incredible watching those games. I only saw about 5 minutes of it. The difference between, it turns out, full-on elite Premier League footballers and guys who are, even the guys who are retired a couple of years, just how slow they are. Obviously, who am I to talk?
Well, I mean, they've no hips or knees anymore.
It's sad.
It turns out you need your body to be able to do this. Because I was actually just thinking about this. You're looking at so Thierry Henry's record. Olivier Giroud is about to break his record. I don't know if he did or not. Sorry about that. And I was like, well, Thierry Henry still looks like he could play football. Why do these players stop at the age they stop? And then you're like, and then you see them, and because they can't do it anymore.
The body is broken.
Yeah. Right, so this is how this works. Every Sunday evening on Instagram, we ask you to put something in red, in amber, in green. Red is bad, amber is like a bit stuck, green is go, 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 go. It's the Gillette Labs Performance Rankings, and we have a Gillette Labs starter pack up for grabs every week. Now, Nathan.
All right, so we'll start in the red. We'll start with the Republic of Ireland.
Oh, I'm surprised you haven't got them in the green, you Kenny lover, you. What, you're getting off the bandwagon now after one bad result? What's wrong with you?
Well, they were beaten. So you win, you go in the green, you lose, you go in the red, and generally, if you're Ireland, you probably end up in the orange the vast majority of the time. Do
we like the orange shirts?
I'm never that keen on the orange shirts. What's better? The black jersey?
I like black, yeah, I like black. I love the blue. I thought the blue was amazing.
The blue was beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, if we could get the blue back for big occasions.
Again, I don't think this was a performance that anybody should go crazy for either way. I thought it was, very well organised. I think he picked the right team. Played very well in the first half. Like, it's not maybe what people had thought they might get at the start of the Kenny regime. Some sort of Barcelona-esque tiki-taka football. They looked for the Scottish weaknesses. They obviously saw that their fullbacks were going to push high up the pitch. Played a lot of balls down the wings. The centre half stepped forward a lot, and really got at Scotland. Like, played really strong counter-attacking football and got the reward with the goal, and you just hope they'd kick on in the second half, like the game against Ukraine. They concede early in the second half, but even after that, like, if Troy Parrott scores a goal, Ireland are in the green, and Troy Parrott's got to score a goal. Like, you have to take those chances. And I was making the point on Saturday night after the game that, like, there are things out of Stephen Kenny's control. So Matt Doherty, like, is it a little bit of match sharpness that he puts in such a weak effort? He's without question, I think, Ireland's best player, but he isn't playing any football. So is he just that slight bit off it in his reaction times? And if he's playing all the time for Tottenham, does he block that cross? Does he make a better attempt? And likewise, Troy Parrott, if he had a couple of goals this season, is there a bit of confidence there that when he's clear through, that he knows exactly what he's going to do? But he doesn't. And Scotland were a stronger team, certainly in the last 15, 20 minutes. The substitutions, aside from Ogbene coming in, didn't seem to add a huge amount in those last 10, 15 minutes, but I think a 1-1 draw would have been a very fair result, and again a sign that Ireland, I think, are making progression. Obviously a very young side, 7 players starting under the age of 23, and not only that, if you look at it, like, James McLean was the only player who started on Saturday night that had even 10 caps when Stephen Kenny took over. So, like, this has been a revolution. It's been a necessary one, because Ireland were heading towards a cliff. Like, this, it's the one thing when the criticism comes in of Kenny and these sort of results, and losing to Luxembourg and drawing with Azerbaijan, losing with Armenia. Like, Ireland have been heading towards this really since Euro 2016. Things that were unimaginable ones had started happening. Losing 4 goals against Wales, been humiliated in the playoff. These things used to happen to us, but it turns out they're starting to happen with more regularity. But I think
Denmark came to Dublin and absolutely ripped us apart. Like, when really bad substitution decisions were made by Martin O'Neill, who was standing on the sideline going, what's happening here? But actually, in fairness, the O'Neill comments have been interpreted as burying Kenny, but he actually did point out that Kenny's team played well against Scotland and against Ukraine, and we're trending in the right direction here. But it gets harder to make that case when you lose games.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to talk about a bigger picture when people go results. And listen, even on that, you can go either way. Is it 3 defeats in 17 or is it 2 wins in 20? Which one do you want to look at? Stephen Kenny's obviously going to point towards the 3 defeats in 17. And they are getting better. And these players now have a lot of game time under their belt. And it feels as though it's a sort of established team right now, as much as you can have in international football. I don't think there should be any great changes for tomorrow night against Armenia. Maybe Ogbene comes in. But that's the next big challenge. Ireland, as of yet, aside from the friendly against Qatar, at home against lesser opposition, haven't gone and dominated teams, haven't gone and scored a few goals, had a lot of possession, created a lot of chances.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we played really well against the Scotland team. Granted, they were in the immediate aftermath of being knocked out of the World Cup, and so you definitely have to take the context around that. Some comments, right? Paul Brown says our substitutions were really poor. They offered very little. Terrible defending by Doherty and Brown. Scotland really relaxed after Obafemi and Parrott went off. Poor from our senior players. James McCullough says, morning, I'm very excited by this team. The youthful aspect have shown grit. We play great football. We'll have rested players after the World Cup to hit the qualifiers running in March. Euro 2024 champs. I think a couple of things are fairly obvious, is that those players who aren't playing club football, we will benefit from them getting some club football. Like we need Doherty to play some football. We need Coleman to play some football. We need Troy Parrott to start scoring some goals and having a bit of confidence at club level. Like the difference between Jason Molumby now and Jason Molumby when he wasn't playing football is really stark. Granted, he's a young player and he's evolving and he's getting better, but it's so different to watch somebody who's not fully confident about what they're doing week in, week out, then being catapulted to the national side. And I think it would definitely benefit us from having more players play. You can see the difference. Nathan Collins is playing all the time. Dara O'Shea's playing all the time. It's great for us that we just need everybody playing football at whatever level. It doesn't really matter what level they're playing at. Obviously, it would be better the higher, but I do think there's a good chance Matt Doherty gets back in the Spurs team at some point over the season.
Well, I don't know. Or maybe he just leaves in January and goes to another Premier League club and starts getting football. He definitely needs football. Like, he looked like the class act in that Ireland team. When he got the ball, he had such nice, intricate touches out in the right wing. He was able to open things up in a way that nobody else was. But you have to assume that the defending for the goal was because he was just shattered at that stage. Now, he didn't want to come off when he was being taken off. He wasn't particularly happy about it. I think there was maybe a bit of miscommunication. He thought it was because of the injury he just picked up, whereas Coleman had already been togged and ready to come on. Coleman should get some football now. Nathan Patterson looks like picked up a bad injury for Scotland last week, so Coleman should be back in right back. But these are the issues that all international managers are going to face. It's out of Stephen Kenny's hands as to what happens between now and next March in terms of club football. Maybe some of those who are playing now drop out of sides. But you want a bit of depth where players can come in who are fit and in form.
Like, if Obafemi got the move, he would have been playing a lot of football.
I thought Obafemi played really well. It's hard, with the exception of Doherty's mistake, to pick too many Irish players who didn't have a good game. Like Obafemi and Parrott's work rate, his touches in the first half, the chance is going to overshadow everything. But Parrott, by and large, had a decent game. Obafemi looked a real threat, particularly with the type of game Ireland were trying to play on the counter-attack. Like, it was a sensational ball for Parrott for that opportunity. The one in the first half, he did look a little bit indecisive, and maybe his touch at times is a tad heavy. Ogbene came on and was brilliant when he came on. Like, not all the substitutions didn't work. Like, Ogbene definitely came on and made a big impact, particularly with that run down the right-hand side. I don't know if I didn't actually see a replay of the one the keeper kicked off, whether he could have reacted a little bit quicker and how big a chance
I don't know.
I mean, was.
I think it's one of those, if it goes in, it's a bit fluky. Like, to be able to react at all to get it. I hadn't realised until, was it you said it, that McGregor had been up all night with the new baby. So maybe
Greg Gordon, yeah.
Greg Gordon, sorry. So maybe we should have taken a bit more advantage of that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a game, as these Nations League games are, between two teams that are, not a million miles away from each other. Scotland do have players at a higher level. Like, there's no getting away from that. I think as much as we talk up these Irish players, like, it is still just Gavin Bazunu and Nathan Collins who are playing in the Premier League every week. Scotland had Kieran Tierney for a fleeting moment in at left back before he got injured yet again. Playing for Arsenal. Scott McTominay obviously playing for Manchester United. John McGinn. Yeah, I know Villa fans look at John McGinn this season and say maybe he's not on it, but he's still playing.
He was on it for Scotland. He was doing all the things that Villa fans would have seen from him all the way back to the Championship. And if Villa had that McGinn week in, week out, they'd be pretty happy at the moment. I see somebody in the comments saying there's a good chance that we're going to get relegated to the League C. It's just not good enough. There isn't really a good chance that we're going to get relegated. I mean, we have to lose the game.
No, if they lose tomorrow night, obviously they will be relegated, and there will be insane pressure on Stephen Kenny. But I would say understandably so. If you lose at home to Armenia, there's always going to be massive question marks. And listen, Ireland are in a difficult position for Euro qualifying now because they're going to be third seeds. We see that France and England are among the second seeds. You might have Turkey among the fourth seeds. You could end up with a incredibly difficult draw, and their ranking in the Nations League at the moment doesn't mean it's an absolute guarantee that you're going to get that backup of a playoff. So it's not a straightforward thing. There's no guarantees that this is going to be a success and Ireland are going to qualify, and this bringing through of all these young players will have been worthwhile. But I don't think there was a choice.
Yeah.
Like we were heading towards that cliff edge of footballing talent. Like there was 5 or 6 years where, with the exception of Alan Brown, basically nobody came through. So what was the alternative? I know Damien Delaney was making the point that we can say he's playing young players, but he had other options. He could have played Jeff Hendrick instead of Jason Lumby, but he has played Jeff Hendrick. Like Jeff Hendrick dropped out after the defeat at home against Ukraine, having played pretty much every game. Like Shane Duffy's not playing club football. There's not that question of trying to think of it yesterday. What would be the team if Mick McCarthy was still there?
You're lumping the ball forward to like Shane Duffy going up for the last 10 minutes, try and get on a header. And
you're probably playing Will Keane and Scott Hogan up front. Like there's a good chance that's maybe the front two if Mick McCarthy's there.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants that. It's funny how look. Do we need to go back and relitigate what Mick McCarthy presided over?
Well, no, we don't. But I do think we need to just remember again. I think that things were edging in this direction. That it was a struggle against Gibraltar.
Remember how bad we were at Parkhead, like when Martin O'Neill was there and Sean Maloney scored the winner. Now that team still managed to turn it around from that point, but nobody was going to Ireland games vaguely excited to watch what we were about to see. You were going with this dread of I really hope we get a flick on from a corner and maybe we can get a set piece, and if Robbie Brady's delivery is at it tonight, then we have a chance. But there was nothing else. There was literally nothing else to recommend us.
Is that for us to discuss, like the emotional side of it, of wanting to go and be entertained?
That is for us to discuss.
By Ireland.
That is.
Because should we be just looking at performance and results?
No, I think that I think that this is the national team and it has to go beyond. It's supposed to be a representation of who we are, right? It's supposed to be this is like the best that our football has to offer. And the best that our football had to offer for a long time was boring, and we were literally in it for the crack to see if the fans could go and sing and get some attention on the global stage for being the best fans in the world, self-appointed. And that wasn't really helping football in Ireland at any level. And so, I don't know, I think it's important that they stick with this for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, and I think people do want to be entertained. Like I say, the reading what's in the papers today is in just such stark contrast to what was being felt outside the stadium, it feels, on Saturday night, where Irish fans had travelled to Scotland and bloody enjoyed what they'd seen. And generally it seems when they're going to the Aviva, they're enjoying what they're watching. Now, yes, you can keep throwing back the results. Understandably, the results have to get better. And they are starting to get a little bit better. They can't keep having the issues they're having against the likes of Armenia. But having sat through the Trapattoni era, and maybe there's a bit of a disconnect between some of the pundits and what happened in that sort of lost decade in terms of just how bad it was, just how many people were turned off Irish football because of the crap they were being served up under Trapattoni, and then even a lot of it under Martin O'Neill. There were obviously some good performances in there, but generally, even them were sort of backs against the wall. We managed to nab a goal here and there. It doesn't take away from the brilliance of the victory at the time. And then likewise under Mick McCarthy, that's the biggest revisionism, that somehow that last campaign, Ireland produced some, they didn't. It was absolutely dire stuff to watch.
Week in, week out.
Results weren't much better. So, listen, I think they're playing a good, attractive style of football that people want to get behind. Stephen Kenny's not the only manager in the world who can get a team playing that style of football. And I think that's a good point. It's not Stephen Kenny or Sam Allardyce or Sean Dyche.
Okay, you're right. However, there's always a massive overcorrection when something like this happens. There's always, like in all walks of football, there's like, we tried that, it didn't work, so we have to go back the other way. And the whole thing shifts over to finding a manager who is like almost exclusively results oriented. Like, I know the argument comes, oh, who's even suggesting Sam Allardyce? But actually, like, give us the list of alternatives that the FAI are going to consider here, that the FAI board are going to consider here, right? Like, I don't know. I don't see them going for another progressive manager with ideas about how football should be played and how there should be a connection between the national team and all the other football that's played in the country. That's unlikely to happen. I'm very sceptical about them finding a new manager or a replacement who's interested in playing good football as opposed to, well, I'm just here to get results. So, like, I don't know, do they put a Chris Hughton figure in? I don't know. He's obviously not available at the moment anyway, but he would be probably...
No, but that's... Look, I don't think anyone wants that. You know, Brighton are the prime example of a transformation where Chris Hughton did a very good job at Brighton, but they wanted more. Yeah. They wanted more. They wanted to be entertained, and Graham Potter brought them that.
I enjoyed the game. I thought the performance was positive overall. Pity we didn't hang on for a result, but I do see good team spirit. Nathan Collins is really excellent, says Michael. And Damien just casually says, would a United Ireland team perform better on the world stage? I'm English, just asking. Damien. And a nice 7:52 this morning, and we're going to dedicate the rest of the week to answering that question for you. A reminder, OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Ireland are in the red. I don't know. I think you can make the case they're actually in the amber, but I don't pick these. You do. Who's next?
Munster are in the red. I don't think too many people will question that. So beaten 23-17 by Dragons at Rodney Parade. Dragons' first home win in 17 months and their first win over Munster for 7 years. And to really rub salt in, JJ Hanrahan scored 18 points for Dragons.
And missed 2 kicks at the end, which would have made it a really easy win for them.
So does that make Munster feel a bit happy? How we made the right decision there? These are the moments.
I don't know.
We don't want to throw JJ in the red here. He's on a winning team. But 2 defeats in a row to start the season. Graham Roundtree, by all accounts, really going to town on his players for the performance, how completely unacceptable it was. I know it was brought up last week about the sort of weeks, holidays they seem to be given before the start of the season. It does just look like they're off it. It doesn't look like they're ready for the start of the new season. I know they're trying to implement a slightly new game plan, and Andy Dunn was on Wednesday Night Rugby, really interested in. Like, these things just take time to bed in.
I accept that. I do accept that. And I actually missed the bit where they were good. They scored all their points in a 5-minute window. I missed that part. I only saw the second half. But in the second half, there was like 3 forward passes where they just
It's not a good sign when the good is condensed into a 5-minute spell, and if you just nip out to the jacks, you've missed the entire thing.
And the other thing is that it's only the URC, right? We understand that this competition at this stage of the season doesn't actually have that much meaning, but you can't say that it was their B team or whatever. It was like very, very recognisable. Like, a lot of their best players playing at this stage.
Well, also, I think that was almost the attitude at times last season. It's the URC, it doesn't matter. And then you end up in the knockout stages and you find yourself with an away game in the knockout stages because you were sloppy at the start of the season. Now, they're home against Zebre in Cork, and I think it's Friday night. You would expect that that's a game, Munster win with relative ease. And, you could point and look back on the Joe Schmidt era at Leinster and say it started quite slowly, and eventually they got it all together. But Graham Roundtree himself was saying he was one of the reasons for his appointment was continuity. Maybe some Munster fans didn't want a continuity from the Johan van Graan era, but yeah, they look a mile away from where they should be at this stage of the season. They've obviously lost a lot of players now to the emerging Ireland squad as well, who are going to miss the next 2-3 weeks. So you just, from Graham Roundtree's point of view, as I said, that stink that's sort of hanging over Munster from the last 6 months of Van Graan's time, that needs to lift. Particularly, it's going to come around quickly, the start of a Champions Cup. And I don't think there was there was a great amount of positivity around Munster to start with.
I think the new coaching ticket does obviously deserve time, so we shouldn't overreact to this. And we'll have Alan Quinlan with us a little bit later on. Like, it's a new season. It's a very long season because this is the start of the World Cup season. So, like, we don't need Peter O'Mahony and Tyke Byrne and a lot of players to be brilliant at the moment. We need them to be grand, and we need them to find form in the 3 or 4 weeks before the World Cup next September. Like, that's really what we need. That's what this next...
Well, tell that to the Munster season ticket holders who just spent all that cash, and now you're saying, what we need here now is Peter O'Mahony to just cruise through a few games for the next year. Like, isn't that the biggest problem with the URC?
It is.
Everyone, does it matter?
It's the truth,
well, it's all about the Champions Cup. Oh, it's all about Six Nations. Oh, it's all about the World Cup. Like, these are essentially just glorified friendlies that they're charging you full whack for. Like, what's the point of this competition?
It's a fundamental question that we come back to repeatedly. But, well, the South Africans are taking it seriously with all their B teams all winning at the weekend. So it is going to be us watching the South Africans carry cups away for the next 20 years of our lives. It's exciting, isn't it?
We could have put Bundy Aki in there as well, sent off yet again for Connacht, and having a right go at the referee when he was sent off, but we can discuss that with Quinny.
I don't pay that much attention to Dragons, I have to say. I hadn't realised that the whole Dean Ryan thing had kicked off in the last week. So he was obviously in charge last season and was in charge for the first game of this season, and had severely criticised the players who got absolutely hammered 44-6 at Edinburgh, and then wasn't around, and then all of a sudden they come out and they beat Munster. So it's not like this is a Leinster team or one of the good South African teams who you've gone to and you've you've put it up to them. It's like, this is the worst team in the league.
Hadn't won a game at home in nearly 18 months.
Yeah, it's not a good sign. It's really not a good sign. So if you're a Munster fan, we'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. As I said, Queenie's got to be along a little bit later on to give us his instinct about what's happening and how worried you should be at the moment. Leona Maguire is so close, but so far away at the Irish Open.
Yeah, it looked for a while yesterday on the back nine as though Leona Maguire was going to go and produce this remarkable comeback, having started the weekend 10 shots back and maybe go and win the Ladies Irish Open down at Dromoland Castle. She ended up finishing on 13 under par, a shot outside the playoff. Weekends of 65 and 68. That was after a hugely disappointing Friday. I think she was devastated on Friday evening around a 75, having started the tournament so well. But she sort of stuck at it. She was the class act in the field. Like, she was by far and away the best player in the field. And even with that 65, like, she had, 5 birdies on the back nine yesterday. I'd say she's still very disappointed because...
We're just having a bit of trouble with your microphone there. So we might get you a new one, and we'll...
You do the talking, Ger.
Yeah, I can. Oh, there you go. It's 7:58 this morning. So this is the bit where I was going to ask Nathan what the course was playing like, and whether or not Dromoland was a difficult place to navigate your way around. But the listeners are never going to get to find that out. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number if you want to get in touch with us. A reminder: OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. So far, in their head, we've had the Republic of Ireland and Munster in the green, Irish rowing and Eric Donovan. So we're going to talk about those in just a second. And Leona is in the orange after nearly winning the KPMG Irish Open. Right, I think... no, you're not back yet. A reminder, Braeburn Coffee is the official coffee partner at OTB.
I'm just delaying this as much as possible.
Every week we give one lucky viewer €100 voucher to spend on some Braeburn coffee goodness at an Apple Green store near you. To enter, check out @OffTheBall. Just make sure it's on Twitter. Like and retweet our Braeburn competition post and you'll be in the draw. Braeburn Coffee never compromises on quality or taste to give you the best on-the-go coffee experience on the road. It's available at Apple Green today.
The great thing about playing in the Pro-Am was that you did get to play it like the pros because you could use their drive. So you were hitting your approach from the same spot where they would be hitting their approach. And the back nine is set up brilliantly for tournament golf because there's two par fives in the final 3 holes, and there's also a drivable par 4. So Laura Beveridge, who we played with in the Pro-Am, ended up playing the final 4 holes in 5 under par, finishing just a couple of shots back. So that was there for Leona Maguire. There was so many birdie opportunities, and the one I'd say that got away was 15, which is a drivable par 4. There was more birdies than pars on it during the week, and she ended up parring it yesterday. She had a chance to chip in on 18 for eagle, and it just rolled on by. both of those opportunities to get yourself into a playoff. And as I say, she was by far and away the class act in the field. But, you know, she turned up. It was very much out of her calendar and her schedule. She was over in Seattle playing last week. She made the decision to come back to support the event because it's been a decade since there'd been a Women's Irish Open. And she was the big draw. There was great crowds down there yesterday. It was a bit strange watching it because the final few groups, there wasn't big crowds around them because everybody was following Leona Maguire, who teed off about an hour before the leaders. So she gave everybody a good run for their money. Klara Spilkova of the Czech Republic eventually won out. It was a three-way playoff, and Spilkova was the winner.
All right. Irish rowing in the green?
Yes, yet again, Irish rowing in the green. 4 medals at the World Championships. 2 of them gold. Yesterday, Sunita Perspore and Zoe Hyde completed a really good World Championships for Ireland. They won bronze in the women's double sculls. Obviously, Sunita Perspore is a 2-time former gold medalist. I think everyone sort of expected she might retire after the Olympics. It was a really disappointing Olympics. She's 40 now. Sort of said she just hadn't made a decision, so she kept training. And it was put in her mind, well, why don't you hop on a boat with Zoe and see how you get on? And they rock up at a World Championships and end up with a bronze medal. That followed the usual from Paula Donovan, Fit McCarthy. Just another gold medal.
Yeah. It was just the usual, it turned out.
I wouldn't say expectations are high, but it's, you know, it'd be the greatest disappointment in Irish sport if they don't win gold at this stage.
Ooh.
It was just like they're at that level of greatness right now that we assume every time. We take it for granted how good they are.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't be taking stuff for granted, though, given like we're a small country, you know, which this hasn't happened before. So we shouldn't take it for granted. And look, the achievement is the thing. Like the scale of the achievement and the consistency of the achievement is the thing. The post-race interview is coming in for some criticism here from Colin Sheridan in the back of the Examiner. He says the bid is getting old. I don't know. Was there a beef with Gillick? Is there something going on that we don't know, or is it just like he's very tired in the immediate aftermath of like winning something and hasn't quite got his thoughts round to, I need to think about what I'm going to say here?
Yeah, there is that possibility. Like they've just been through an absolutely grueling race, and we're expecting him to be totally coherent. Can you beef with David Gillick? You can't beef.
No, I don't think so either. Okay, so what else is in the green?
I've got to mention Katie O'Brien, gold for Katie O'Brien as well, and Aoife Casey and Margaret Kremen won a bronze. And also in the green, Eric Donovan. So this was Saturday night. I was trying to follow it on my phone in Glasgow. Eric Donovan, European Union Super Featherweight Champion. 37 now, Belfast Europa Hotel, beats Khalil El Hadri. Trying to watch back the highlights and looking at the photos, it looked like it was an absolute war.
Yeah, the 10th round. If you haven't watched this, I'm sure it's on the TG Car Player. But the 10th round is like an all-time classic Irish boxing round where they just literally put their heads together and start banging away. And for him to survive that and to come through with the victory, like a lot of controversy in terms of the decision afterwards from his opponent and his opponent's team saying that they thought they'd won the fight. A lot of people thought that it could have gone either way, that Eric Donovan was landing the higher number of punches, but his opponent, as Eric said, hit like a mule and was definitely doing the more damage. So if you see Eric's face afterwards, it's much more cut up than his opponent. But like what the judges are looking for isn't how hard you're hitting. They're looking for a clean number of punches and who's the aggressor in the fight. So look, you know, he pays your money, he takes your choice with that stuff. For him at this stage of his career, Michael Conlon afterwards was on TG Car and he was saying, you know, there's plenty of opportunity for him out there if he wants it, but actually maybe now might be the time to ride off into the sunset. Eric talked about this being redemption in another interview that I saw with one of the websites, and I always felt like even if he didn't make it to the level of winning the title, the redemption has come from the fact that everybody who ever meets him or watches him comes away feeling more positive about themselves and with like intense loyalty towards him because he's such a good person. And his comeback story is truly remarkable, and I think it deserves a much wider audience, and I hope it finds that wide audience over the next while, because if Irish sport was functioning properly, we'd be giving Eric a role in Irish sport that was important and valued, and like he goes around schools telling his story to schools, but there should be some formal recognition of that. I think like the Kildare Sports Partnership or the Louth Sports Partnership could do worse than having him embedded there, and Sport Ireland could do worse than co-opting him onto some boards and just getting his story out there, because it is an incredible recovery from the situation he found himself in after he left amateur boxing to the point where he is now, where he can stand and tell his story and explain to people the difficulties that he's had in his life away from the ring, and then to come out the other side of it. So I hope he retires, though. I hope that now this is it, that at 37 he's climbed his Everest and he's looked around and gone, well, that was pretty good, because it's a very special end. And even if there is a homecoming fight in Kildare, like, you know, every single fight from this point forward is probably the law of diminishing returns, and he deserves his retirement. He deserves to go out on this high. So yeah, go back and watch that 10th round, like, absolute warrior stuff, and for him to come through that is sensational. So I wish him all the best.
All right.
He's a legend, by the way. My ma taught him in school, and you know, he talked afterwards, like in the immediate aftermath of going those 12 rounds, he just leans in and starts listing off all the people in his life. So Dom O'Rourke in St Michael's Boxing Club 30 years ago, he walked in as a 7-year-old, and how it changed his life. And you could see that there were people there in the Europa Hotel who had been part of that journey the whole time. And he is, of all of the people in Irish sport who you meet, you go, oh, he's a nice guy. I've never met anybody ever to say anything other than he's not just a nice guy, he's a lovely person. Like, he's a really good human being. So I can't recommend him enough.
Yeah, his wife Laura's there, I think 8.5 months pregnant, so I suspect that might come into his thinking as well as to what happens next.
Yeah, a busy time. So you know, that might be an excuse to go out running instead of changing nappies. But don't do it, Eric. Change the nappies and lean in.
We could have had 3 in green, of course. We could have had Zach Toohey and Mark O'Connor in there as well on the AFL Grand Final.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a one-way traffic. I'd be bluffing if I said any more about the game, but the post celebrations have been lit.
Oh yeah, I haven't been following. Have they been all over TikTok?
Well, just the like, he had the come on the town.
Oh, yeah. That did raise an interesting question. A lot of people were wondering, is Portlaoise now the town more so than Dundalk?
Well, I think everybody thinks they're the town.
I think Dundalk was just assumed to be the town. Did Portlaoise just steal that from them?
Well, I mean, the Thai footballers was that they were the town. That's how it works. That's how it works.
I think, but for national recognition, nationally, Dundalk was the town.
Right, your microphone's gone again there, Nathan, so I don't know what the issue is. It's there are some gremlins in the system. It's 7 minutes past 8 this morning. Right, that was this week's Gillette Labs Performance Rankings.
OTB AM's Performance Rankings with Gillette.